Mike, I thought it was interesting. The national media, ESPN, ESPN News, big segments on Joe Paterno yesterday. I thought he was going to say some kind of revolutionary thing. much the same, but I guess it's because he's up and about, he's out. Your thoughts of the press conference, how he looked, and we're going to get a little bit more about what he was saying.
I think more than any other sports figure, and for obvious reasons, Joe is the one guy who, just by showing up and walking around and being ambulatory, he kind of makes news. He's 83 years old, and he had passed on a lot of speaking engagements and alumni functions over the off season because of some kind of health problems, which apparently were just more he was trying to avoid an embarrassing situation than that he literally wasn't healthy enough to do it. But everybody said the reaction from yesterday was the first day of media days out in Chicago for the Big Ten, an annual thing that they do. And yesterday was the first day of it. And a couple of the writers who were there said that they thought Joe looked frail. He has lost some weight. Slurred speech. I heard a couple people say that was he didn't seem as sharp and articulate as he normally has been, and he really even when he was at his worst in terms of his health over recent years, when he had the hip problem and everything, he was still Joe in his mind and in the things he said, and so that's a little bit disconcerting. I wonder if it's possible to make too much a big deal of that. If he did have these intestinal problems, it makes sense that he lost some weight, sure. Number one. Number two, it was only one day, one thing. I mean, I'm interested to see how he looks next week when we go to Media Day at Penn State up at Happy Valley to see if I agree with this assessment. But a little disconcerting, I think.
Let's let him get a little bit of Seuss cooking in him. He'll do fine.
There you go.
Now, because he is 83 and because maybe he's slurred speech and frail, whatever, the conversation came up about a predecessor to, or a replacement for him, is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. And he brought up, and he says he hopes he'll be consulted on this, or has a say, or can at least give his opinion, and if so, and so, well, think about this with that person. Okay, he said those same things before. What struck me is he's 83, a little bit frail, and that they haven't had a conversation yet about this with him.
Well, and that's why this whole thing of how this is going to end is so strange and so unique and so hard to figure, because I'm sure that the athletic director up there, Tim Curley, the president of the school, Graham Spanier, I'm sure they have not walked up to Joe's front door and knocked on the door and said, "Hey, Joe, let's talk about a cessation plan here," or whatever. And if they did, that would probably make Joe mad. I mean, that would probably make him go ballistic. But so what do you mean when you say you want to be involved, Joe? What does that mean? I mean, at some point there has to be some sort of a timetable or a plan, you would think. And Joe continually says, and he said it again yesterday, hey, I might coach one more year, I might coach two more, I might coach five more. I mean, it's very loose, and it's easy to say, well, he has earned the right to handle it that way, and I wouldn't argue with that, but it does create some weird logistics, I think.
Yeah, he's earned that right, I agree, but this is also a major program that since 2005 in the Big Ten has second most wins only behind Ohio State, the second most Big Ten titles behind only Ohio State. It's a big-time program that you maybe need to have a plan in place. You don't wait for Anthony Quarles to come back and knock him over and kill him this time.
It's easy to say Joe built this, and I can't argue with that. But it's still bigger than he is in terms of the functional. Penn State football is still bigger than Joe is in terms of the functional workings of the program going forward. It just is. It reminds me a little bit when everybody said Tiger Woods was bigger than golf. No, he's not bigger than golf. He needs golf more than golf needs him, even though they both need each other. I think this is similar.